Okay, hi guys. Today I'm gonna read the last few pages of this book. I was gonna finish yesterday, but I started nodding off and I just couldn't read anymore. So I'm gonna read now. I'm gonna start on page 181 again, just because I don't know what I read yesterday, so we'll go back there. St. George's sanctuary is showing no effect against the intruder, switching to another spell and continuing destruction of the intruder in order to protect the caller. That was clearly not the index the two magicians knew. That was clearly an index the church had not told them about. For an instant, just an instant, Style gritted his teeth so hard it seemed they would crack. Fortis 931. I don't know if it's Fortis 931 or something, but yeah. Tens of thousands of cards flew from within his pitch-black clothes. Cards carved with flame runes spiraled around like a typhoon, and in no time at all had covered the wall, ceiling, and floor without gap. It was just like Hoichi the Earless. However, he was not acting in order to save Kamiju. In an effort to save the girl from Index, Style pressed his hand against Kamiju's back. Oh wait, I forgot to tweet out that I'm streaming. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, let's get back to the book. However, he was not acting in order to save Kamiju in an effort to save the girl from Index. In an effort to save the girl named Index, Style pressed his hand against Kamiju's back. I do not need any vague possibilities. As long as I can erase her memories, I can save her life for now. I will kill anyone to accomplish that. I will destroy anything. That is what I decided long ago. Kamiju's feet that had been sliding further and further back suddenly stopped. An unbelievable power caused the tatami mats his toes were digging into to creak horribly. For now, Kamiju did not turn around. To hell with that. I don't care about anything like that. I don't need reasons or logic. Just answer me one thing, magicians. Kamiju sucked in a breath before continuing. Do you want to save Index or not? The magician stopped breath. You've been waiting for this the whole time, haven't you? You've been waiting for a solution where Index doesn't have to lose her memories and you don't have to make an enemy of her, right? This is that kind of wonderful, wonderful, happy ending that anyone would want, and everyone is happy. An unpleasant noise came from his right wrist as he continued to force it against the pillar of light. Even so, Kamiju did not give up. You've always longed for this turn of events, haven't you? You aren't filling in until the hero shows up. You aren't buying time until the main character can appear. There's no one else. There's nothing else. Did you swear to save that girl with your own two hands? A crack ran down the fingernail of his right index finger and red blood flowed out. Even so, Kamijo did not give up. You've always wanted to be the heroes, right? You always wanted to become the kind of magicians you find in picture books and movies that risk their lives to save the girl, right? Then this isn't anywhere near over. It hasn't even begun. Don't fall into despair just because the prologue dragged a bit too long. The magician's voice was silenced. Kamiju would not give up. What did he look like in the magician's eyes? If you stretch out your hand, you can reach it. Just do it already, magicians. An odd cracking noise came from Kamiju's right pinky. When he realized the finger was bent, broken, at an unnatural angle, the pillar of light attacked with tremendous force and finally knocked Kamiju's right hand away. His hand was knocked a good ways back. Kamiju's face was completely defenseless and the pillar of light rushed towards it at a dreadful speed. Salvaro! The instant before the pillar of light struck his face, he heard Kanzaki yell that. It was not Japanese. He had never heard the word before. However, he had heard a similar name once before. It had been during his confrontation with Style at the dorm. He had said it was the name he must give when he used magic, his magic name. Kanzaki's around 2-meter long Japanese sword sliced through the air. Her nanosen attack using 7 wires flew towards Index at a speed that seemed to slice through sound itself. But she was not aiming for Index. The wires tore through the fragile tatami mat at Index's feet. Having lost her footing, Index fell backwards. The magic circles linked, her eyes moved, and the pillar of light that was supposed to be aiming for Kamiju missed its target by quite a bit. As if it was a giant sword being swung around, the pillar of light sliced through the wall and ceiling of the apartment. It even sliced through the pitch-black clouds floating in the night sky. In fact, it could have even sliced through a satellite outside the atmosphere. Not even a splinter remained where the walls and ceilings had been sliced. Instead, the portions that had been destroyed had become feathers of light that were as pure white as the pillar of light. They came floating down. Kamiju had no idea what effects they might have. Oh. I just lost my place. I'm so sorry. Not even a splinter remained where the walls and ceiling had been sliced. Instead, the portions that had been destroyed had become feathers of light that were as pure white as the pillar of light. They came floating down. Kamiju had no idea what effects they might have, but a few dozen of those feathers of light came floating down like winter snow on that summer night. Those are the same as dragon breath, the strike of the legendary dragon of St. George. Whatever power they may have, I highly doubt the human body would react well to them. Having heard Kanzaki's warning and having been freed from the bonds of the pillar of light, Kamiju ran towards Index as she lay collapsed on the ground. But before he could, Index turned her head. Like a giant sword being swung, the pillar of light was swung back down, slicing back through the night sky. Kamiju was going to be caught by it again. In a sentience, as Kamiju prepared himself, a spiral flame appeared in front of him. The giant flame took on the form of a person and then spread out its arms to act as a shield against the pillar of light. It was truly like a cross protecting man from sin. "Go, Esper!" shouted Style. "Her time limit has already passed. If you want to do this, don't waste even a second." Kamiju did not respond in words or even turn around. Before he could, he ran around the colliding flame and light and then towards Index. He did it because Style wanted him to. He did it because he had heard Style's words and understood the meaning held in them, and the feelings hidden behind them. Kamiju ran. He ran. Warning, Chapter 6, Verse 13, new enemy confirmed, changing combat considerations beginning, scan of the battlefield done, focusing on the destruction of the most difficult enemy, Kamiju Tuma. Index swung her head around pillar of light and all, but Innocentius moved to protect Kamiju at the same time. The light and the flames continued to eat into each other in an extended conflict. Extended conflict. Okay, I lost my place again. Warning, Chapter 6, Verse 13, new enemy confirmed, changing combat considerations beginning, scan of the battlefield done, focusing on the destruction of the most difficult enemy, Kamiju Tuma. Index swung her head around pillar of light and all, but Innocentians moved to protect Kamiju at the same time. The light and the flames continued to eat into each other into an extended conflict of distraction and regeneration. Kamiju ran straight for the now defenseless Index. 4 more meters, 3 more meters, 2 more meters, 1 more meter. "No, above you!" Kanzaki yelled with a voice that seemed to tear through everything. Kamiju had just reached the point where he could reach the magic circles in front of Index's face. If he stretched out his hand without stopping his feet, he looked up at the ceiling. The feathers of light, the few dozen shining feathers that had been created when Index's pillar of light had destroyed the wall and ceiling were slowly floating down like snowflakes. They had just floated down far enough to be about to reach Kamiju's head. Despite not knowing anything about magic, Kamiju could still tell that having one of where am I? Okay, the feathers of light. The few dozen shining feathers that had been created when Index's pillar of light had destroyed the wall and ceiling were slowly floating down like snowflakes. They had just floated far enough to be about to reach Kamiju's head. Despite not knowing anything about magic, Kamiju could still tell that having even one of those feathers touch him would be very, very bad. But he also knew that he could negate them by using his right hand. But warning, chapter 22, verse 1, analysis of the flame magic spell has succeeded. It is confirmed to be a distorted Christian motive described with runes. Adding in anti-Christian spell 1, spell 2, spell 3, 12 seconds until the complete activation of the spell named Eli Lima Sabachthani. I don't know how to pronounce that, sorry. The pillar of light's color turned from pure white to crimson. Innocentius's regeneration speed visibly slowed, and the pillar of light pushed forward. Using his right hand to take out each and every one of those dozens of feathers of light would most likely take too much time. There was a danger of Index managing to stand back up, and most importantly, Innocentius clearly wouldn't last that long. The dozens of feathers of light floating above, or the single girl at his feet who was being controlled and whose very feeling was being used. It was a simple question of who to save and who to let fall. The answer was obvious. Kamiju Toma had not been swinging his right hand around for his own sake. He had been fighting the magicians in order to save a certain girl. God, if this story is moving ahead according to the system was created. Kamiju spread open the 5 fingers of his clenched fist almost as if he were going to wash his palm. Then, I first need to destroy that illusion. Kamiju swung his right hand down. He swung it down on the black cracks and the magic circles that had produced those cracks. Kamiju's right hand easily tore them apart. It was so easy it made him want to laugh at how much suffering they had caused. He broke through them as easily as the paper of goldfish scoop once it was wet. Okay, there's his hand. Warning, final, chapter verse 0. The color has received fatal damage. Regeneration impossible. God. The voice coming from Index's mouth ended together. The pillar of light disappeared. The magic circles were gone. And it was almost as if the cracks had been running across the room had been erased with an eraser. At that time, one of the feathers of light fell down on Kamiju Tuma's head. He thought he heard someone shout. He did not know whether it had been Style Kazaki himself or even Index who might have woken up. As if he had hit his head with a hammer. All strength left his entire body down to the very last finger. Kamiju fell down, covering up Index, who was still collapsed on the floor. It was almost as if he were protecting her body from the falling feathers of light. The dozens of feathers of light floated down the snowflakes towards every part of Kamiju's body. Even so, Kamiju Toma smiled. He smiled that he never moved those fingertips again. On that night, Kamiju Toma died. Epilogue. The conclusion of the Index of Prohibited Books Girl. Index Librorum Prohibitorum. Seems it was nothing, said a plump doctor in an examination room in a university hospital. The doctor spun around in a swiveling chair. He must have been aware he resembled a frog because he had a sticker of a small tree frog on his ID card on his chest. Index may have had a great love for humanity, but scientists were the one group she did not care for. While magicians were indeed a collection of oddities, she felt scientists were even odder. She wondered why she was alone with him. But without anyone to be with, she had no choice. Yet she had no one to be with. I don't like speaking so politely to someone who isn't my patient, so I'm going to stop. This is my first and last question to you as a doctor. Why did you come here to my hospital? Not even Index knew the answer to that question. No one, truly no one, had told her the truth. She did not like having magicians who she thought were her enemies to tell her about the yearly wipe of her memories, or about how a certain boy had risked his life to save her from those horrible circumstances. But having 3 people in Academy City without an ID is quite a surprise. Did you know a strange beam shot down one of our surveillance satellites, which has left Judgment quite busy? That wasn't your first and last question at all. Index was one of the 3 without an ID. The other 2 were likely those magicians. Despite having chased her all over the place, they had brought her to the hospital and then disappeared without a trace. By the way, that letter you have there is from them, isn't it? The frog-faced doctor was looking at the envelope in Index's hand that looked like it could have that. Oh, sorry. The frog-faced doctor was looking at the envelope in Index's hand that looked like it could hold even a love letter. With an angry look, Index ripped the envelope apart and took out the letter. Oh, I thought it was addressed to that boy, not you. It doesn't matter, it replied Index indignantly. Since the letter was sent by Style Magnus and started with Dear Kamijo Tuma, it was simply too suspicious. A deadly malice could be felt from the heart sticker on the envelope. At any rate, the letter read, any standard greetings would be a waste of time, so I'm skipping them. Now you've done it, you bastard. And I'd like to go on like that, but if I threw all my personal feelings at you here, I would end up using up all the trees in the world and still not have enough paper for this letter. As such, I'll end that here, you bastard. It went on like that for 8 pages of stationery. Index slowly and carefully read through it, all crushing of each page as she finished up and tossing it behind her. The doctor's frog face grew more and more annoyed with each new balled-up page littering the floor of his workplace. But he could not say anything to Index, who was emitting the odd intimidation of a bullied child on the verge of tears, and on the 9th and final page the following was written. For now I will do the bare minimum of what etiquette demands of me for your help and explain about that girl and her circumstances. I can't have either of us owing each other anything. The next time we meet, we are sure to be enemies. We don't trust you scientists, so we examined her in our own way before the doctor saw her, and she seems to be fine. The higher-ups in the Anglican Church seem to want to retrieve her as soon as possible. Now that her collar has been removed, I think a more wait-and-see approach would be better. Although personally I cannot stand to have her with you even an instant longer. However, she used magic based on the 103,000 grimoires when in the John's pen mode of the church prepared. Now that John's pen has been destroyed, it is possible she can use magic of her own free will. Now, if the destruction of John's pen has caused her magic power to recover, we must reorganize our strength. That said, I don't see how her magic power could have realistically recovered. It's hardly worth warning you about. But a magic god that can freely use those 103,000 grimoires is just that dangerous. By the way, this does not mean we have given up and are leaving her to you. Once we have gathered the information we need and gathered the equipment we need, we intend to come back to take the girl again. I don't like catching people off guard, so make sure you prepare yourself for our arrival. P.S. This letter is made to self-destruct after it has been read. Even if you had realized the truth, you need to be punished for making that bet without consulting us. I hope this blows off a finger or two of that precious right hand of yours. After all, one of Styles' runes was carved into the paper. As soon as Index frantically threw the letter away, my nose is a bit plugged. After all that, one of Styles' runes was carved into the paper. As soon as Index frantically threw the letter away, it burst into pieces without a crackling noise. You seem to have some rather extreme friends. Did they soak the letter in a liquid explosive? The fact that the letter exploding did not surprise the doctor made Index half seriously think he was a bit crazy himself. However, Index's feelings seemed to have numbed over too because no other thoughts entered her mind. As such, she decided to do what she had come to the hospital to do in the first place. If you ever want to know about that boy, it would be fast to just meet with him directly, or so I'd like to say. The frog-faced doctor truly seemed to be enjoying himself. It would be rude for you to receive the shock before the boy himself. So how about a quick lesson beforehand? She knocked on the door twice. That was all she did, but Index felt like her heart was going to burst. While waiting for a response, she restlessly wiped the sweat from her palms onto the skirt of her habit and crossed herself. Yes, replied the boy. Index brought her hand to the door, but then hesitated because she had not actually told her to come in. He had not actually told her to come in, and she wondered if she should ask before doing so, but she was afraid of having him to say something like, "God, you're persistent, just come in already." She was very, very afraid. She opened the door jerkily, like she was a robot. Instead of a hospital room with 6 patients to the room, it was a private room. The walls, floor, and ceiling were all pure white, which threw off her sense of distance, making the room seem oddly large. The boy sat up in a pure white bed. The window next to the bed was open, and the pure white curtain fluttered a bit. He was alive. That truth alone was almost brought to tears to Index's eyes. She was unsure if she should leap onto his arms right She was unsure if she should leap into his arms right then and there, or if she should first give his head a good chomp for being so reckless. Said the boy with a quizzical look on his face and bandage wrapped around his head like a headband. Did you go to the wrong room by any chance? The boy's words were polite and doubtful words of someone probing for information. It was the voice of someone who had just received a phone call from a complete stranger. This was less amnesia and more a case of complete memory destruction. Oh, jeez. My nose. The words the doctor had told Index in that freezing summer examination room floated up the back of her mind. He did not just forget his memories, the brain cells were physically destroyed. I really don't see how he could remember those things again. Honestly, did someone open up his skull and jam a stun gun inside? Index's breathing stopped. She could not help but lower her gaze. Serious damage had been done to this boy's brain as a reaction to his forced overuse of his Esper powers. And as damage from the light Index herself had fired, or so she had heard, but she did not remember it herself. Since it was physical damage that is just a wound, healing it might have been possible with recovery magic, like with Index's sliced open back. However, that transparent boy had a right hand called Imagine Breaker. It would negate all magic, whether it was for good or evil. In other words, even if she tried to heal the boy the recovery magic would be negated. It all came to the boy's mind and heart being dead rather than his body. The boy's voice sounded unsure, no, worried. For some reason, Index could not allow that transparent boy to speak like that. The boy had been hurt for her sake. It was not fair for him to then worry about her. Index forced down whatever it was that was gathering her heart and took a deep breath. She tried to smile and thought she might have managed. The boy was transparent through and through, so it was clear he did not remember Index at all. Are you okay? You look really sad. That transparent boy smashed her perfect smile to pieces all at once. Index recalled that the boy had always seemed able to see the true emotions hidden behind her smiles. I'm perfectly okay, Index worked to keep her breathing steady. Of course I'm okay. The transparent boy studied Index's face for a bit. Did we know each other by any chance? That question was the hardest one for Index to bear. It proved that the transparent boy knew nothing about her. Nothing, truly nothing. Yes, replied Index as she stood in the middle of the hospital room. Her body language was similar to an elementary school student in a manga who has been sent to stand out in the hall for forgetting her homework. Tuma, you don't remember? We met on your dorm balcony. I live in a dorm? Okay, so he forgot his memories, I guess. I live in a dorm. Tuma, you don't remember? You destroyed my walking church with your right hand. What's a walking church? Is it some kind of a new jogging religion? Tuma, you don't remember? You fought magicians for me. Is Tuma someone's name? Index felt like she could go on speaking for much longer. She could not go on speaking for much longer. Tuma, you don't remember? Even so, she had to ask one last thing. Your friend Index loved you. I'm sorry, said to the transparent boy. And what is Index? It doesn't sound like a person's name. Do I have a cat or a dog? Where? Index felt the urge to cry rise as high as her chest. But she crushed that urge and forced it down. She forced it down and smiled. It was hardly a perfect smile, but she did at least manage a crumbling smile. Just kidding. You totally fell for it. Ha 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 ha. Where? Index froze in place. The unsure expression left the transparent boy's face. It was completely swapped out for a fierce and incredible evil smile and bared canines. With bared canines. Why are you getting so emotional over being called a dog or a cat, you masochist? What are you into, things like collars or something? Come on, I have no intentions on having this end with me revealing a secret interest in kidnapping and confining little girls. At some point, color has filled the transparent boy. Index did not understand why she thought she was imagining things, so she rubbed her eyes. She thought she was hearing things. So she cleared out her ears. It felt like her perfectly sized habit had somehow become too big, so one shoulder was about to slip off. Huh? Tuma, huh? I was told your brain cells have been destroyed, so you forgot everything. Come on now, don't make it sound like it would have been better if I had, Kamichu sighed. You really are slow. It's true. I chose to take those feathers of light at the very, very end. I'm no magician. Oh, jeez. Let me check chat. You really are slow. It's true. I chose to take those feathers of light at the very, very end. At the very, very end, I'm no magician, so I have no idea what effects they had. But according to the doctor, my brain cells were damaged as such. I was supposed to have amnesia, right? You were supposed to? Yep. After all, that damage was done by magic power, right? Index said as she realized something. That's right. That's it. And you got it. Is 3 times enough? That made things simple. I just touched my own head with my right hand and used Imagine Breaker on myself. Index weakly sat down on the floor. Basically, I just had to negate the magical damage before it could reach my brain and do permanent damage there. If it was more than a physical phenomenon like Styles' flames, they would have never worked, but those feathers of light were nothing more than a strange supernatural power, so there was no problem. It was the same as how a bomb would not explode as if its fuse was lit no longer lit no if its fuse was lit so long as the fuse was cut before it reached the bomb. Before the damage running through Kamiji's body would reach his brain, he had negated that damage itself. It sounded ridiculous. It sounded it sounded absolutely ridiculous, but that boy's imagined rigor could negate even the rules created by God. As Index sat on the floor with a daze, with as Index sat on the floor in a daze with her legs bent backwards to either side, she looked up at Kamiji's face. Now she was sure the shoulders of her absolute run's habit had indeed slipped down. Her expression was just as stupid looking. Ha ha, man, you should have seen your face with how you always have everyone volunteer for your sake. I hope this incident has taught you something. Index was unable to respond. Huh? Kamichi grew a bit unsure of himself, and the tone of his voice dropped. Index slowly lowered her head, and her long silver bangs covered her expression. As she sat on the floor, her shoulders trembled slightly. It seemed like she was gritting her teeth with an unpleasant tone in his voice. Kamichu went back to probing for information. There is one thing I would like to ask. May I ask it, Princess? What? Replied Index. Are you angry by any chance? The nurse call rang. Looking a perfect fit for some angry sounding effects. Looking a perfect fit for some angry sound effect. Index left the hospital room. Oh, said a voice near the entrance. The frog-faced doctor entered just as Index was exiting, and he had almost bumped into her. Where was I? Oh, I came because the nurse call went off. But oh, now this is bad. The boy's upper body had slid from the bed, and he cried while holding the top of his head with both hands. I'm gonna die. I'm really gonna die, he muttered to himself with such realism that it was frightening. The doctor glanced back towards the open door to the hallway before turning back to Kamichu. Should you really have done that? Done what? Replied the boy. You don't remember anything, do you? The transparent boy fell silent. The reality the God that created was not as kind as warm as what he had told the girl. As a result of the magic that had afflicted them, the boy and girl had collapsed in the apartment, and the two naming themselves magicians had brought them to the hospital. Those supposed magicians had told the doctors that what had transpired, and the doctors had of course not believed them. The doctors had only told the boy all of that because they felt like he had the right to know. To him, it felt like reading someone else's diary. It did not matter to him what someone else's diary said about a girl he could not picture in his head or recognize if he saw her. What he had told her had been nothing more than something he had made up based on someone else's diary had said. Even if it said that right hand was wrapped in bandages, held a power that could destroy even the rules created by God. He did not really believe it. But should I really have done that? Said the transparent boy. Oh, jeez. Even though it had been someone else's diary, it had been so enjoyable and so heartbreaking. His missing memories would never come back, but he had somehow managed to think of that as a very sad thing. For some reason, I did not want to make that girl cry. That was how I felt. I don't know what kind of feeling it was, and I'll probably never remember, but that was how I felt all the time. The transparent boy gave a truly colorless smile. Doctor, why did you believe that story? I mean, being a doctor is about being a doctor is about as far as you can get from things like magicians and magic. Not necessarily a proud look appeared on the doctor's frog-like face. Hospitals and now called have a surprisingly close relationship. Oh, geez. And I'm not talking about ghosts haunting hospitals. Depending on their religions, some people refuse to take blood transfusions, refuse surgery, and will sue you even though you saved their life. For a doctor, it is best just to do what the patient says when it comes to the occult. The doctor smiled. He did not know why he was smiling. When he saw the boy smile, he instinctually smiled back like he was a mirror image of the boy, or perhaps it was the boy that was the mirror of the doctor. That was just how hollow the boy's smile was. It was like he could not even feel sorrow. The boy was really, really, truly transparent. I still may remember more than you think. The frog-faced doctor looked at the transparent boy in a slight surprise. Oh, in slight surprise. Your memories were killed, brain cells and all. What a ridiculous thing for me to say, thought the doctor, but he continued. To liken the human body to a computer, your hard disk was utterly fried. If there is no data left in your brain, just where are these memories supposed to be? Somehow the doctor felt the boy's response would blow that ridiculous logic away. Isn't that obvious? Replied the transparent boy in my heart. Afterward. Nice to meet you. This is Kamachi Kazuma. Right about now, I'm starting to feel incredibly embarrassed about referring to myself with the pen name. To people who have done things online, it's a bit like revealing your handle to the world for the first time. Come to think of it, this book got its start online. The magicians and RPGs and such that can create balls or fire or revive the dead. At the cost of some MP are quite convenient because the term magic lets them do whatever they want. But for the sake of argument, let's just assume magic actually existed. What kinds of people use magic throughout history? What kinds of rules exist behind the term magic? This all started when I typed magician and actually exist into a search engine in an attempt to answer those questions. It came up with things like how to control a black cat with silver vine powder, and voodoo witch doctors used fugu poison to create zombies that had a state of apparent death. I got interested when I realized that the workings of the occult seemed an awful lot like science. The Dengeki Bunko's light novels treat magic like it's normal, so I thought that a novel that went deeper into the idea of magic might be a new idea. Really, this is a work that was more about my personal interest rather than an idea marketed to a certain type of reader. That is, I didn't try to come up with some catchy topic. My bowed head will never be raised when in front of my editor Miki-san and my illustrator Hamura Kiyotaka-san, who both stuck me on this. I'm truly thankful, and to the readers who picked this book up, I'm very grateful that you stuck with my long drawn writing style for this long. I hope Kenhiju Tomo and Index just live a little longer in your hearts. And I pray that I will get to make a second volume. For today, I laid down my pen. It's actually still December 26, 2003. Kamachi Kazuma. Okay. That is the end of volume 1. Thank you for watching if you are watching.